Okay, the recording has started. I think everybody knows you are being recorded. We're going to go ahead and get started. I think we know everybody. Hi, I'm Cherie, and this is Andrea. Together, we are the education team for the WAFC, and we are excited to spend time with you today. I hope we've seen all of you at least once before, as we've been going through since last September, trying to align you and alert you and keep you aware of how we were moving forward into a new way of working with the retail management certificate, mostly regarding administrative processes. So we'll talk about the agenda and then jump right in. The first thing is what you're going to learn today. You're going to get an understanding of what changes. You will also really understand how to work within the new processes and get a distinct sense for the roles and responsibilities for all entities. The way the WAFC is going to communicate with you, with students, with college, with companies. Who are you students? How are they being paid? Or how is their tuition being paid? And ultimately some tools and resources for you as well. So today's agenda, first, to really understand the workflow from the 30,000 foot view, the entire process. Then a day in the life of a student, and I'll try to be a day in the life of a college administrator, and then ultimately share those tools and support that we provide you. So what changes? For our colleges, not a lot, except the one key thing is that the WAFC, who was on the sidelines connecting partner colleges with partner employers, is now in the middle, pulling you together. And we, in this new role, of course, the thing we've talked about multiple times and will continue to talk about today is the FERPA, the role of FERPA, as we are sitting in the center of all of this, and then the changes, if there are any in your perspective on roles and responsibilities, and finally, data security. Okay.
Okay, so we're going to start at a very high level and go through from a flow chart how the new processes work. And then we're going to go into a day in a life where we will share a lot more detail. So starting at a high level, and this is for new students only, because we're starting with new students so that we can learn, test and learn forward. And we've been listening to a lot of feedback. So as we learn from the feedback, we adjust. So let's begin by talking about these icons so that you understand the colors and who's doing what here. So in the purple is the company. In the yellow is a new student. In the blue is the WAFC. In the green is the system. And in the orange is the college, or are the colleges. Real quickly, I would like to show you the difference between the system and the WAFC. So if I come into here, this is probably not the right example. Hold on, I'm going to show you real quick because we have had people ask, well, what is the system? So I'm logged out right now. If I log in, I'm taking you actually into the system, and the only people that have access to the system are WAFC staff members, so that we're protecting the data, not only data integrity, but data security. So right now, I'm actually showing you what the system looks like. We have a whole bunch of test fake data loaded up. This is what the system looks like. You will not be working in here. This is where we will store all the student information. It is encrypted, it is protected. This organization works with a lot of sensitive data. They work a lot with social workers and education. They are experienced at managing sensitive information, including social security numbers. And we have an agreement with them that ensures and protects us against any sort of security issues. So this is the system. If we're the only ones that have access to this information, the question is, how do you know who your students are? And how do you get access to this information? And we are going to share that with you today. Okay, so that's the players. Let's talk about who's doing what, what is the heavy lifting and when. You're going to notice a lot of this doesn't change much. Starting with campaigning, we need companies to campaign to get excited and bring in new students and get the word out about the program. So companies are going to be campaigning. They will send students to an intake form, which we will show you in a few minutes, where we capture all the students' pertinent data that goes into a system, and the system will then automatically notify, thank you very much for your application. Then the WAFC, now that we've captured all this great student information, we need to get it to the other important players in this process, starting with the company. So we will upload these reports to a OneDrive that is password protective and specific to each college and each company. And the company will access this information and will tell us who's approved for prepayment, tuition prepayment, and who is not. They will then send that report back to us and we load it into the system so we have a permanent history of who has been approved and who has not, recognizing this can change over time if students aren't passing classes, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. Once we have uploaded that information into the system will generate an automatic email that tells the student the status of their scholarship, either accepted or denied, or what we call put on self-pay. All right, so now we have all this great information about students sitting in the system that we now need to get to colleges. So like we did with companies, we will load a report specific to the college, your college only, with every company you work with and their student information onto a OneDrive, which we'll show you in a few minutes. You download that report, and once you now know who your students are. And now that you know who your students are, we would like you to reach out to them because you're going to have their email address and help them apply to college. Not for everyone, but for a lot of students, the college of experience of applying to college is really challenging, which is why we're sending you the students before we ask them to apply. So we would like you to help them apply and then enroll them in class, and you're done, really, until we start having some academic status. Once we start having grades or withdrawals, etc., you will then load reports back to us, and we will put that into the system so that we can communicate it with the companies, and this process just goes round and round and starts all over again. That was very high level. You may have some questions, but hold on because we're going to go into a day in a life and we may answer some of your questions. Before we go there, though, we wanted to give you a different look of this, but more at the buckets of each player. So, responsibilities. Companies are responsible to campaign and bring in new students. Companies are also responsible for telling us who is on tuition prepayment. They then have some best practices we'd like them to follow. We've given them some tools and resources, retention, celebrating graduates. For colleges, your responsibility is to ensure that we have a three-way FERPA release form so that you can communicate with us, student academic status. Be an advisor to the student about the college application process. Many of you are doing that today. Some of you are not. This is a best practice we're going to use going forward. Block enroll. So in other words, enroll all your students automatically into classes. We're going to talk about that a little bit further. Some of you are doing that. For those of you who are not, this is a best practice. Communicate when students need intervention. Our relationship with you, your relationship with the companies doesn't go away. We still want to encourage that. And when you're having students that are not succeeding, please reach out to your companies. Communicate academic status to the WAFC so that we have it loaded into the system and could share those reports with your companies so that they could tell us whether or not somebody is eligible for prepayment tuition. The WAFC responsibility. We are a technical resource. That is our primary responsibility right now, and all the responsibilities that come with that, including security and providing the right information and tools to you and the companies. We will track and communicate with colleges and companies all the information that we have as we are the technical resource. Okay, so I'm going to be Andrea, and I'm really excited because I'm going to sign up for the WAF or the RMC program. I've heard about it. I went through a campaign period, and I'm going to show you what a day in the life of a student looks like. So the first thing I'm going to do is come to this step-by-step guide that my company gives me that tells me exactly how I need to now sign up. And when I look at this guide, which has a lot more detail, this is the first page, I see I need to complete the intake form. So the first thing I'm going to do is click here. And when I go to the intake form, this is what it will look like. At the top are some instructions, and then this form will auto open up as I complete some information. Couple things I want to notice in the instructions. The first thing is that everything in asterisks is required. If it's not in asterisks, it's not required. The second thing I want to point out is that for companies, they have their preferred colleges. And in the past, we haven't had a way to get that information to students. We now do, because in the student guide, we're going to be very directive, but let's say they don't know who their college is by the time they get here. It's the very first question, so they need to know their college. And there is now a web page to help them find their preferred college, which we're going to. So I'm just going to say I work for, let's say, Stater Brothers, or let's use Albertsons. Albertsons, Southern California. Um, Here we go. Albertsons Bonds Pavilions. And I'm in the state of California. It tells me my preferred college is Cerritos. And on and on. I'm no longer in California. I'm now in Washington. And these are my company's preferred colleges, and I could choose any of these. So we are being more directive, trying to navigate them to the college that the company has partnered with. And so that's this link here that is also provided in the intake form. Now, if I go back to the intake form, apologize.
And while you're getting back to that intake form, just to be clear, the College Finder is what the employers have told us right now for the soft launch of this system and the premier colleges they know they count on, but it doesn't mean that this is an ironclad list that doesn't ever change over time. So keep that in mind.
Okay, so as a student, I've come back to my form. I know who my college is, and I start filling out all my information. I'm not going to fill out everything for the sake of time, but just want to show you a couple key things. Here, the student tells us, are they new, continuing, or re-enrolling? I've taken a pause and I'm re-enrolling. Well, I'm going to be a new student. I then now start providing more detailed information. My company offers prepaid scholarship, or no, my company doesn't, and I'm on self-pay, or I don't know. I'm going to be company pay. And now I start filling out more information that the companies need to know about these students so they know who their students are. Couple things you'll notice. We did not ask for the student ID. We had originally planned on asking for this information, but because of a lot of feedback, we decided to navigate the processes differently, not have them sign up for the college first. So they wouldn't have a student ID yet. Also, we've got some feedback that this is very sensitive data, and there were several colleges very concerned about having this information be around and available. So I wanted to point that out. Then you will notice on this intake form, we're asking some commitment questions, making sure they understand that this is college and they're ready. We also ask for scholarship commitment questions, making sure they understand they have to pass their classes. You want to know, have they been in college before, and do I need to have my transcripts reviewed as a student because I want to know if any of my classes apply. So let's just say, yes, I have a bachelor's degree, and yes, I want the college to review my coursework. I then have this information I need to read that is allowing us to communicate with you in companies. So I read this and then I sign it, and um, I would do the same down here. And then I'm not a student, or I'm not a robot. And if I click submit, this form is live and I would become a student of Albertsons Vaughn's Pavilions. So that's what the intake form looks like. Now that I've submitted my application, I am now getting an email from the system saying, thank you very much, we received your application. As a student, the next thing I do is I go to step 2. If I'm in California, I need a community college ID. If I'm not in California, I skip this step and everybody goes to step 3, which is hold tight. Your college is going to reach out to you and help you, give you instructions on how to apply to their school. Simultaneously, companies are accessing the information that we've provided, saying, here's all your students who've signed up, and they're reviewing them and approving them or declining them for tuition prepayment. As they approve or decline, we're uploading that into the system, and the system auto-generates an email letting the student know the status of their application. And then as a student, I'm done because I'm waiting to hear from you. And so I'm going to turn it over to Cherie.
Okay. So now, if only I had ever been a college administrator, I could get this 100%, but I'm going to try after working with so many of you for so many years. Okay. So the first thing that happens is we want you to be aware we have built a college playbook. Is one of the things that we have told you would be a deliverable. And so this gives you a glimpse into just the first screenshot of the cover and the first page. You might feel like it's a little bit backwards because we want to give you the big picture and then get into the weeds. So what we have shared with you is that the companies are going to be campaigning, and on this actual first page of the college playbook, we've got two things going on. The first is just giving you a sense for this is when you jump in as soon as you receive a report from the WAFC that tells you who the students are from a particular employer and that they're on prepay versus self-pay, and the steps for you to start communicating with them very intentionally about how to apply. If you're in California, the step is the CCC apply first, and then your own college application. On the right-hand column of this single sheet is just to let you know what we've asked the companies to do, the materials they've got for campaigning, the time frame they've got. So let's talk about that. We are telling them this is for new students only. We just got off a call with our companies, the third of 3, and some of the confusion or questions about if I put this QR code out there, there are going to be all kinds of students, continuing students, returning students, new students, and we're going to try to manage it so that you are spoon fed a new group of students as we start the new system. It could very quickly end up having continuing students and returning students added. In fact, a returning student is somebody who left for a while and is coming back. They might feel like a new student. So we will manage that and process it. You saw that there's a checkbox where they can say, I've taken some of these classes, so that you can be proactive with that as well. The time frame. We are giving the companies time frames to campaign, primarily because we know you want and need consistency, and you want them to give you a group of students as opposed to have students coming to you one-on-one or onesies and twosies being sent by a company, so that you can manage it more efficiently. And the way we've given them deadlines is around what you told us are your priority block registration, if you do that, dates. So if you want to treat them like the football team and your college works with you that way, which is a massive best practice, then you have a priority deadline that allows you to put these people into a class before it's open to the general public, and then know who your students are, that are true, real WAFC Retail Management Certificate students. May 1 through May 21, we've got these colleges listed here that told us that priority deadline, it's pretty early. So please try to do your campaigning from May, somewhere between May 1 and May 21. If it's a later start, like maybe it's one of your quarter system schools that you don't even start the fall semester until into mid-September. So they don't need to campaign until at least June 1, maybe June 15. And so they're kind of mulling that over and processing that right now. We are not, this is not a black and white thing. We did not draw a line in the sand and say nobody can campaign after that. So we are open to this discussion with the Northwest for our term system, our quarter system. This is going to tell you also that while they're campaigning, you want reports. Some colleges have already told us that the first day there are students showing up on a report because they filled out the intake form. You'd like to start seeing that. And so we want to be able to provide you with that. And we'll give you a deeper look into what that report might look like in just a minute. But if you don't want daily reports, don't open the folder every day. If you do, it'll be there. Okay. We'll talk about what? The folder? How do I get to the folder? That's what's coming next. So that was the top of the trees. How do you find your students? Well, one of the first things is in the college playbook and also in this training is a library of links that you will want to have access on your desktop quickly so that you can get to it. But we will start providing reports, as Andrea said, in a very highly secure environment on a OneDrive, SharePoint. Just your college will receive all of your information. So as the student fills out the intake form and tells us what company they're with and tells us what college they want to attend, we align with that college. So here's an example of Cerritos's folder. And for the month of April, what might that report look like? I just clicked on it. You can see that this is test data. Everybody's last name is technically fake. So we could track it and scrub it. But in this, you can see Cerritos College is getting this report. The students are telling us what term they wanted to start class. They're telling us what day this was created. So it's important you know the creation date is on the left-hand side, because as you get this report, it continues to build. If you've already looked at the ones who came in on April 15th, then now you're going to look for the ones that are after that date so that you can continue to add and communicate. You can see their full name, a cell phone number, which is one of the ways we will be identifying them as a unique student, so that if somebody has the same first and last name, the unique identifier would be to add that cell phone. Next is a personal email address. You have access to both of these, so you can start communicating with them, introducing yourself, telling them how to apply, inviting them to an information or orientation session, if that's one of your best practices, which we highly recommend to make sure that everybody is being tracked. The state they reside in, this is a red flag if they reside in California, but they're picking central New Mexico or Umpqua or something outside of the state of California, where they're going to be charged more than the tuition that we have in the state of California. Please, please help us get them back to a college they really should be applying to. But other than that, that's probably the only reason the state that they reside in is there. The application type, most of them are going to say new. That's what our hope is. But if you see something slightly different, you'll address it and you'll be able to deal with it. They're probably one of your ongoing students. The application status, Andrea, what in that column, who's populating that one?
It gets auto-populated from the company. So what happens is when a student completes the form, it automatically goes to application received status. As soon as the company tells us if they're approved or not approved for tuition prepayment, we upload that information. The status will change to either approved or denied, and then it will populate with a date.
Okay. Yes. And so the companies are the ones making those decisions. And even if you receive these reports before there are approvals, some colleges have told us they will take those, they will start working with that applicant because the student or the applicant is clearly stating they would like to be a student, regardless of how the tuition will be paid. If you're one that waits until you know the approval status, again, it's totally your choice. The next columns are regarding, yeah, that'll be whether the employer pays. Most of you already have set up third-party billing, direct billing with your employer partners. That's ideal. That is the smoothest, most efficient process for companies and colleges. If there are some you're trying to work with that do not do that yet, and you need input or help from us bringing them to that place, please reach out to us independently and we can help with that.
Just a note on this too. Um, this is how the student responded in the system. This comes from the company. So you might see, as example here, that that it says employer pay. Well, that's because the student asked for the employer to pay, but the company came back and said, no, I decline it. So that's why you might see a discrepancy there.
There's a couple of key reasons why. The first one is some of our employers have guardrails up around what levels a position in companies can apply and get prepaid. Some of them, it's got to be a supervisor title already. Another reason would be that there's something about their employee status that is flagging for them. And that's none of our business. So it's just a matter of if the company says they're not paying it, we have to live with that, honor it. Okay. And then we've got their current level of education. Here's your flag about, oh, I definitely want to reach out to this person regarding transcripts. And yes, they've asked me to do that. We have the employer name. Your report will include all the employers. If you only work with one, it's going to be all that company's name. But if you work with 5 or 6 or 20, then all of them will be listed. You can sort according to either creation date or employer name so that you can align this and organize it the way you want to. Okay, so I think we broke that one down. Okay. These are all the things that we were just going through that are key to the day in the life of the college administrator. We've hit on all those. So the next thing that's key, first of all, use the student's personal email address. We are aligned that we don't want employers. We hope the student is not using a company email address because this is an off-the-clock personal decision to go to school. Second, please do the how-to, whether it is live and virtual meetings or whether it is a how-to booklet, a packet that you provide to the employers that you also provide to the students. Some colleges are really intentional. Some employers, when they say you've been selected, here's the how-to for the college we work with, but there's no harm in them getting the same communication more than once so that at least they know what to do to apply. We have a couple of samples here. And then the third thing is the FERPA form. There is a requirement as a premier college that you ask the students to complete a FERPA form that tells the student, where the student tells you that you can communicate with the employer and with the WAFC so that this whole report process and communication process can flow smoothly, efficiently with solid tracking. And that we know, some of you that's still in process. Some of you have told us we're good to go. but everybody is moving in that direction. The real red alert here is that the day that you want to start communicating with students for the first time about how to apply to your college is the day you probably want them to have the new FERPA form, so you're not chasing them down to have them redo it. Getting a couple of questions in the chat. The first one is, can we make mention on the WAFC application when students are entering their email information that they monitor their junk mail or spam? Well, you're going to need to do that too, because the colleges we've already been starting to invite to your folder, it's in your spam. So this is important. Okay, if your students are going to be on prepaid tuition and they don't want to sign a FERPA release, this is a company decision not to pay their tuition. Okay, continuing on in the company handbook. I'll come back to the FERPA, Chris, from somebody named Chris in just a minute. The enrolling students into classes is part 2. We want to talk about that block registration, which is a best practice. If you have 5 students, it would still be ideal if you have a way to register them into a course so that they don't have to be thinking about those kinds of things. If you cannot do that, it makes it a little clunky for the students, and there are the risks. They sign up for the wrong classes. They have a prerequisite they shouldn't have had. All of those things that we try to avoid in this program that the students should not have to do get solved when you help them register into the class and waive any prerequisites, etc., or holds. But again, we'll do some one-offs if you want and need to have more information on that process. There's a difference between the new students and the continuing students. Again, we've talked about that a lot. And then probably one of the most important things is the courses in recommended order and how that's going to show up in terms of tracking and reports. So you probably all know that the WAFC went through laborious revalidations of the content in the program and also around what is the recommended order so that the curriculum comes to them in ways that it builds. The classes get harder and more challenging, and you're bringing them along. The recommended order for almost every college, except for the few we've talked to and have slight differences, and there are valid reasons for that. This is the recommended order. In the report, when you start tracking people through all 8 classes, these are the classes. This is the order they will show up in. We're using what we call our standardized or generic course titles. So human relations is probably human relations, or pretty close to that everywhere. Intro to marketing is probably intro to marketing. But if your intro to management is principles of supervision, and you have that as your first course, it's actually your 4th course in the report. So please be clear to align with this standardized list in terms of reporting. We made a note about that at the bottom so that this is all in that company playbook. And then there's a couple areas that we are not going to spend a lot of time on right now. Just to let you know, we are thinking about this right now. We are doing more than thinking about it, but we feel like we're biting off a lot right now. So the to come, stay tuned, are more details on uploading, providing you with the actual template that I was just describing so that you're downloading or uploading rather the academic progress, whether it's pass fail, which means C- or better for a pass, or whether it's an actual letter grade, which the system can accept both. And if it is a withdrawal, that's another option in the system. And then the other thing is the tuition costs per student per class, because that drives, if you have a 3-credit course, a 4-credit course in a term system, or a quarter system, it might be a 5-credit course to be able to provide the tuition cost that gets uploaded into the system aligned with that course. So after the term begins and you've got people enrolled, your responsibilities in the system are mostly complete until you start posting grades. But during the term, as we've shared before, your role and your responsibility still is, and the companies are counting on this. Day 1, day 5, day 7 or 8, who is a student? They all said they were a student, they applied, we registered them in a class. Did they open the class? Did they get started? If not, at the earliest opportunity, instead of operating in a system that's static, you need to be communicating with your college company partners. They're counting on you to do that so they can do triage on their end and support struggling students or those who just didn't open the class yet. And then we expect you to administratively drop, if that is possible, on your campus or whatever that looks like before a company is paying. So whatever that drop deadline is. So these are some things that can be, oh, our college doesn't do that, can't do that. If it's a one-off, please let us deal with you on one-on-one on that. So that is the day in the life of the college administrator. We're excited that none of us are going to be dealing with a paper pencil version of the old application for graduates, that it will all be in the system once you've been uploading. We rely 100% on our college partners to tell us who is a graduate. It's not going to be okay for an employer to fill in some of those things on a report and have us trust that. It comes down to what our colleges tell us. Let me address, before we get into the tools, there is not one FERPA form that for everybody. When Andrea was showing you our intake form, that is so that the WAFC has permission immediately to communicate with you and with the employer. And so they fill out that FERPA. We don't even call it a FERPA form. It's a student authorization. FERPA is for you. You're the one that's federally bound. We are not. But we want an authorization release, and we get it. You are being asked, most of you are already well on the way to getting this done, to modify your current FERPA release for those that are on prepay. And if those that are on self-pay fill it out, great. Just so it's not as challenging for you to manage that. But that's for you. You have that completed. You keep it without each student's individual record. We've learned this. We've listened to you. We've listened to everything you've shared with us to try to align. We're not including student IDs. We might have said that already. This was something that was really important to a few of our community colleges. Anything we can do to minimize risk regarding data and data sharing. And then the next one was from Mark. Employer partners need to communicate back to the colleges if the students quit and leave unannounced. Yes. The reality is, though, some of them don't even know it. You're the first one to tell them, so-and-so never showed up for class or stopped showing up. And so we dropped him. And that's when they realize, well, where is Sally? Sally left, didn't even know it. So that they will do their part to then, of course, deny that student. We have the ability to go into the system, Andrea and I and the new system admin person, to manually change what is that student type. No longer an employee of this company, et cetera, but they'll still be in the system.
Yeah, so what'll happen is we will know when a student is no longer with the company, because when we go through this ongoing cycle of approving students for prepaid tuition, the company will be declining them because they left the company. So that's how we'll know that they are no longer approved. So you will find that out every term. I know there's a couple other questions. We're going to answer some of those in the next few slides. So hold tight. We have a Q&A session coming up. This section is more of an FYI, so I'm just going to go through it really quick. We thought you might want to see what companies are doing to bring in more students. So we've given them some tools to help them campaign and drum up more students, which will bring more companies on board, because some companies have not been able to come on board because in sending you students because they don't have the time to put into administration nor campaigning. So we've made this very automatic form. We've given them flyers and they've got lots to choose from. It's customizable. We've also given them a whole presentation, including a video of student testimonies that they can use to share with students. This is the RMC program. This is what it's all about. We've given them playbooks for both students and for companies. We also have one for you that tells them how to administer the program. There was a big ask for this when we started this whole initiative. And for you and for them, we have what we call a library of links. So we've told you there's a lot of information that's going to be available. How do you find the information? We're sending this to you for the students because they may be asking you or giving you feedback because you're communicating with them a lot more than we do. And so you will have this at your fingertips just in case you want to see what's going on or you need to help them out. But there's also some links for you. There is going to be a folder called College Resources, and it's on a website. It is not proprietary. It's for everyone, and it will be like this presentation. It'll be our training videos. It's more of a very generic type of information. And so there's that available to you. Also available to you will be reports, very specific to you. One of the things we didn't mention, I want to make sure everybody understands because we're hearing a lot about data security. On our team, on our staff is a gentleman, a guy, this is his only job. Not just for us, but for a lot of companies, hospitals, other highly sensitive areas. This is his job, is to help companies navigate through data security. And one of the reasons we're not asking for student IDs is because we met with him and we talked about it, and he said, there's a difference between I want to know and I need to know. And do you need to know that? And so, that's just one example of the things that he's been doing to help us out. But he's also in charge of our report folders. And so these report folders, you'll be receiving the link as we said. And if you don't get access to your reports, then email this email address and we can give you access. But here's the thing, back to data security. If you are not our primary contact and you're just, another person trying to get access, we are going to verify you before we give you access. So if we seem a little strict or we're not moving as quickly as you want, that is the reason why. 4 of us have access to this email address. And so we can respond to you very quickly versus, poor Cherie, when she's at the convention, she might not be answering her emails.
But I'll just add one more piece to that. If you are the primary RMC lead at your college, your email address has already been submitted to our person who's going to send you that first email. If you're secondary and you've been joined at the hip and we know you and you're operating in the system, we even have 1 or 2 colleges where there are 4 who have access. But if you're not that primary person and you're not receiving an email by middle of next week from our WAFC system admin, then that's when we need you to let us know.
Okay. We're going to move along here pretty quickly so we leave plenty of time for Q&A. What happens if something's broken? You're working in the system, you're working with students, something's not working right, like there's a problem. Troubleshooting. We have a help center set up. If you were to click on this link and you will have access to this presentation, it is going to take you to a Survey Monkey where we inquire and ask for some information about you, your name, and then, what is the problem? And you give us some content, and then we will be back in touch with you. We ask that you give us about 4 hours because we might need to do some troubleshooting and do some work, but we will get back to you. If for some reason that's not working for you, there is this email address. There are 4 of us on staff that are checking this email address regularly, especially during campaign periods. We are also setting up office hours or a daily check-in so that if you are having any troubles, you can just pop into one of these times. Cherie and I will be there and we can help you troubleshoot. So these are focused on the recruiting, the beginning of the recruiting periods, and that link will be sent to you by the end of this week. So we're going to go to Q&A, but before we do that, we would like you to use your phones and scan this QR code real quick and tell us how often you will take action. So in other words, how often will you access reports and begin to assist students in applying to your college? We're asking this so we know how quickly or how often we need to be uploading and downloading reports for you, when we need to be available to you, etc. So give us some indication of how often you will be begin accessing reports and helping students apply. Is it during campaign, daily, weekly? Are you going to wait till the end of the campaign period? You know, is it only at one time just before your deadline? And I had the link, and I apologize, I have lost the link, but I'm gonna try to find it real quick.
Yeah, I don't have this one.
Yeah, I gotta get it real quick for you.
Okay.
My system did a reboot. I had all this stuff prepared last night, and it rebooted, and it shut a bunch of stuff down. I was like, ah. I only have the QR code on that. I apologize. So if you would like me to put it up again, I could do that, but I don't have the link at the moment. Any questions while people are finishing responding to that? Wendy?
Yeah, Wendy. Oh, unmute.
Yep, got it. Just caught that. Thanks. First of all, I think this has really come a long way. Thanks for all the hard work, and it's really pretty awesome, and I'm excited to see it come into action here in the next couple of weeks. The couple of questions that I had, one was around the for students who are returning. I think on the intake form, it might be helpful to know where they're returning from, since we're capturing everyone on that intake form. If they say that they're returning, or did they go to a different community college, or did they go to my community college? Because that's going to be a slightly different process. I think at least it is at my school. That might be something to consider adding in, or leaving a space for people to add that in, or we'll ask them. But
Yeah, right now the intake form, it's a toggle. They pick one, but there's no fill in the blank option.
yeah,
Perhaps returning to the program, when was the last year you were in the program? When was the last time you were in the RMC program? And what school?
Unfortunately, for the moment, we can't make any more changes. These are really good questions. Here's a way around it. So the person that does the intake form for us, he is on vacation. So we have to move forward with what we have at the moment, but we can learn forward. So, but for the moment, what you can do is when you get your report that says, I'm Andrea, I'm re-enrolling, you have my email address. You can reach out to me and ask me, okay, what, were you here, or etc. But we can't, that's really good feedback. I made a note, and it's something we can look for the future, maybe
okay,
before our next campaign.
sounds good. I had two more things, quick ones. I
Okay.
noticed in the student authorization paragraphs that thanks for changing the title on that. That looks good. I noticed in the text below, there's still some FERPA references, so I just wanted to point that out and see if that can be
Yeah.
addressed too. And then
The
sorry, go ahead.
FERPA references, Wendy, are it just talks about how it's referencing the law that we have to get information from the student, and again, it's in there because
Our
we can't
attorney.
make those changes right now, and our attorney advised us to put it in there.
Okay.
I know,
Even though we totally appreciate,
I know, yeah.
we're trying to minimize it, not confuse people. Wait, I already filled out FERPA. I get that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. And then
Okay.
the last thing I had feedback, and this is more thinking forward, was when we get to the point of doing right now, when they get that application status update from the company and it's saying whether they're approved or not approved, I think once we get a little farther into the program, we're gonna need that date to change, because that status can continually change as they go throughout the program. So I just wanted to make sure that was on the radar, that date stamp is gonna update each time there's a change to their profile,
Status.
basically. Yeah.
Okay, good call out. Andrea is writing that down.
Thank you.
Okay, then we had Susan, and then Z, and then Vinay.
Hi, you can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And I agree with Wendy that that's a really important point. That has to be updated if somebody's no longer in there, because I think the goal was to say, okay, they're okay to take all 8 courses, and we're supposed to assume that the prepayment is good and they continue. But if something were to happen, we need to know when that changes. That's very important. And I'm meeting with my financial services to see what we're allowed to do in that, what you're wanting to do. But also there was a comment made about if a student's not participating, we are to withdraw them and not charge. There's rules around that, and there's a refund date. And whenever the student signs up for a course, they get the notice, and it does say what their refund date is for 100%. And if they go past that, they're participating, but then they go cold, something had happened. We have rules on our side as well for the adjunct over the class. They don't just go and withdraw a student. They are asked to wait to the end, because there could be some circumstances and they don't make that decision for the student. So for Rio,
Right.
I'm not sure that we can do that so that the company does not get charged. I have to be clear on that.
Yeah, so some colleges have that rule. It's maybe state by state. This is a part of the roles and responsibilities. Your employer partners need to know and understand those limitations. We just want to call out that you're working together as a team to try to manage the process for students as best you can. So thank you, Susan. Okay. Z was next.
My question is, we have some students who are planning to start in the fall semester. Should we send the student to the WAC and with the new application process? Because we still have employers partners that still send student to us. Are the employers and the partners aware of this new process or with this new system with the WAFC?
The employer partners that we know and love are absolutely aware of it. We want them to stop sending you onesies and twosies. We want them to give you a little bit more control over what you're doing. But in this case, I think we are asking the employers that you use regularly, who are part of our system, to start with new students in that system. If you need to loop the employer back in, or give out the intake form directly to the student, I think that's fine.
Okay.
Just a point of clarification, Z, this process starts for fall.
Right.
And
Yes.
I know many of the companies are right now working with colleges. We're hearing on summer. We're actually, we're conducting a test with a couple companies, a couple colleges right now for summer, but this actually starts for fall. And to our knowledge, companies haven't started, well, there's 1 or 2 that have started recruiting for fall, but most of them are working on summer.
But you may have
Yeah.
some that are in a holding tank because they said, oh, wait, I don't want to start in summer. So you think that they're
Yes.
saying, okay,
Yes.
yeah, gotcha.
So that's what I'm doing. I just keep the one that are planning to start in the fall, like on a waiting list, and because I don't want to lose them, or through all the emails. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna create a waiting list, and then when it does start, or like prior to start of fall, I'm gonna follow up with the employers.
Perfect.
Okay, awesome. Okay, Vinay?
Hello, everybody. Okay, mine's just a quick observation. In the beginning, when you ask college name, I'm just thinking about our students. So this is just feedback. What's to stop them from just choosing any college?
They
Well,
might.
they might.
Okay.
And this is where the employers are going to get that list before you get it and say, oh no, we're going to fix that.
Okay.
But the employers have given us their priority, their choice. And so, yeah, College Finder should help guide that. But yes,
Okay.
that could happen. The one call out I said was if you're not a California resident and you're trying to apply to a California school, please stop them. It's $1,000 a class.
Yeah.
You know who you are if this gets haywire, and
Yeah.
we'll try to manage that too.
I mean, I like that link you guys showed, maybe like highlighting it or making it just very.
The College Finder.
Yeah, exactly.
It is big in the student guide. It's really big in the student guide. Like that's kind of the last line of defense, hopefully. And we're asking companies to be very intentional with it on their campaign materials.
Yeah, they can edit the campaign materials to say, these are our colleges, don't choose another one.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Awesome. Okay, John.
Hi, good morning. A couple of questions. First one is I'm assuming some of the folks that are on this call are administrators, because when you say the colleges and you, I'm being a faculty. And so I'm saying, oh gosh, I need to help them with the application process, but I'm assuming that's more directed to the administrators. Is that true?
No, not at all.
Okay.
We have some amazing faculty like you who really are so passionate about this that they do this. It's hand holding, it's white glove.
Wow.
And then there are others who do have someone. It's a critical mass, right? The chicken or the egg. When do you get the support you need? When you have 1,000 students? I don't know. Got
it. Okay, yeah. So yeah, maybe the colleges are different in terms of support and all that. As I'm thinking through, because I know the faculty sometimes that's a challenge. I've heard the application process, and I've never even applied to our college. I've just heard it's a nightmare. Just in general. Well, to the whole California system, the CCC system. So, so with that said, and I apologize, you may have emailed us, but have you reached out to specific administrators at our colleges and had discussions? And if not, maybe I need to get them involved. I know we were going to try to do this a little bit earlier.
Yeah, no, you're going to have to help us loop in who needs to be at the table.
Okay, all right, very
because
good.
If you and Dan are the only two that we communicate with. Rick,
got it.
You're going to have to drag him in.
Got it. Yeah, and the administration with the FERPA and the forms and all that, we're going to have to get somebody more involved and let them know what you guys are doing. So, and then lastly, I had some, and maybe more of a one-on-one. You have IBC down there. I'm assuming that's us as an early registration, not Imperial Valley. I have some comments, questions on those dates. I don't know if they're quite right or not based on the feedback you got from us. So, at some point, maybe afterwards, I'd like to go over that because we don't have that early of a registration. So I do want to make some clarifications on that if it's out on the website.
Okay, on those kinds of things, please just email because it's somebody from your college either gave us the deadline or we had to punt because nobody responded.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we had given you some information and some of it was all different, but maybe a phone conversation would be great just to kind of clarify it that way. Okay. So I can shoot an email out to you guys, you or Andrea. So, all right, thank you.
Awesome.
Hey,
okay.
Susan has been waiting, Sheree.
Oh, okay. I thought that was from the last question. So we'll take Susan. It is 11:02. If you have to leave, thank you so much for joining us.
I probably didn't take my hand down, so I apologize. There you go.
Okay. Okie doke. And then Mark, did you have another question?
Yeah, sorry, real quick, for fall campaign, the store partners starting to recruit, that's going on, that's taking place right now. They've started for fall.
Your CNM, we told them June 1 through June 21 would be a good target because you have the ability to accept lists and put people into your orientation sessions a little bit longer into August. But if you want them to be campaigning in May, we need to give them a heads up.
Because what I had, typically we give store partners anywhere from 8 to 10 weeks to recruit. And this sounds like it's shortening it down to 20 days to recruit for fall.
So your deadline, Your deadline is what?
So, I mean, typically what we've done in the past is 8 to 10 weeks, and now that's reduced down to 20 days.
Okay, so
recruit for
see,
fall.
you see what we have here is August 2nd is the date somebody gave us as
Yes.
when is the deadline.
Yes.
So, all right, so we need to move your, we need to do a heads up to the employers that you want the May campaign so that they have more time.
Yes. Yes.
We've
if we
given
can,
them
yeah.
all latitude to do either one. And
Okay.
the smart thing to do would be to start as soon as possible.
We did
Yes, exactly.
poll.
I mean,
We did.
what I had set up for the summer is reaching out to our store partners, and Sherry, you're familiar with this process, reaching out to them, announcing recruitment for fall term, and then with a published deadline, for them to send us their lists, and then we go ahead and start offering up orientation sessions. So that's why I have to kind of line up my sessions with the deadlines and published dates. So if we can let them know that they have until August 2nd. I mean, our term for fall doesn't start till mid-September.
Right. We did give them the list that Andrea just showed you.
Yeah.
It was a Google sheet you all helped populate.
Right.
And that is their drop deadline that they must have all their students submitted via report by that date. So backing into it, most of them are doing a great job of knowing they need 8 weeks at least to build a campaign, recruit, vet students, and get you the list.
Right. Okay. Okay. Just want to make sure everything is lined up, and I'll probably I'll send you a couple of emails here, Cherie, this afternoon with a couple more questions. Thank you so much.
So if that is your actual drop deadline, everybody, that you gave us, okay. But what we asked for was the priority deadline so you could block register them like the football team. If you can accept students after that, you're going to keep getting reports.
Yeah, the reports will. So here's what I noticed we were missing this in the presentation. I apologize. The timing of the reports. We're timing. The reason we're targeting like these campaign periods is because companies have asked us for reports daily during that campaign period because they're pushing hard. And we just don't have the staff to support them daily with reports for like months on end. So we have these targeted timeframes during the campaign periods. We will provide companies with reports daily. And then outside the campaign periods, we're still going to provide reports. They could still campaign, they could do what they're going to do, but we will move from daily reporting to weekly reporting. So if you if your campaign period is or your timelines are a little bit different and you align with your company something else, just have that in the background. Daily reporting versus weekly reporting. If you're okay with that, then you could be off and running.
Okay, all the hands are down. I'm going to stop recording